When we think about getting good with money, we usually think it's all about what you know, right? It's spreadsheets and fancy degrees, but what if I told you that's all wrong? What if success is actually less about what's in your head and more about how you behave? Today, we're going to dive into some incredible stories from the book, The Psychology of Money, that prove your behavior is way more important than how smart you are.
All right, to really get this, let's meet two guys. On one hand, we have Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant. On the other hand, Richard Fiscone, Harvard MBA, a top executive at Merrill Lynch. By every measure we use, education, career, you name it, Fiscone should have been in a completely different universe financially. But well, that's not quite how the story goes.
So, I've got to ask you, just looking at these two, who do you think passed away with a fortune of over $8 million? Your gut instinct, right now. Is it the janitor? Or is it the finance executive who had every single advantage?
Believe it or not, it was the janitor. Ronald Reed just quietly saved the little bits of money he earned. He put it into good, solid stocks, and then he just waited for decades. And that small nest egg compounded into more than $8 million. And the Harvard MBA, Richard Fiscone, well, he got greedy, took on way too much debt, and the 2008 financial crisis completely wiped him out. He ended up bankrupt. This story just perfectly shows the book's main idea. Finance isn't a hard science. It's all about behavior.
So what is going on here? How does something like this even happen? Well, it gets to one of the first huge lessons from the book: no one is crazy. The decisions we make with our money feel completely rational to us because they're based on our own very specific and, honestly, incredibly limited personal experiences.
This quote just nails it. Think about that for a second. This tiny, tiny sliver of stuff that you've personally seen and lived through makes up 80% of how you view the entire financial world. It shapes your ideas about risk, about reward, everything. And it's why two people who are equally smart can look at the exact same investment and come to wildly different conclusions. Take a look at this. It's a perfect example. If you happen to be born in 1970, you saw the stock market go up 10 times over while you were growing up. The lesson you learned? Stocks are amazing wealth-building machines. But if you were born just 20 years earlier, in 1950, you watched the market basically do nothing for that same period. The lesson you learned? Stocks are risky and don't get you anywhere. Same market, totally different worlds.
And hey, it's not just about stocks. It's the same thing with inflation. If you were growing up in the 60s and 70s, you saw prices triple. You learned to be scared of holding cash. But if you were born in 1990, inflation has pretty much been a non-issue. So your idea of what's normal is just a complete accident of history, but it controls how you behave with money for the rest of your life. So, if our own experience is just this tiny little window, what's happening outside that window? Well, there are these two massive, invisible forces at play that we have to account for, and the biggest ones are luck and risk. We all know the Bill Gates story, right? Pure genius, pure hard work. And yeah, he's brilliant, no question. But that's not the whole story, not even close. Think about this for a second. In 1968, Bill Gates went to one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer. Let's just put that into perspective. The odds of a high school kid having access to a computer like that back in 1968? It was literally 1 in a million. Those are lottery ticket odds. That head start was an incredible stroke of luck. But there's another side to that 1 in a million coin. Back at that same high school, Lakeside, Gates had a best friend named Kent Evans. And by all accounts, Kent was just as smart, just as ambitious, just as obsessed with computers. They spent all their time together, dreaming about the company they were going to build together one day. But Kent Evans never got that chance. He was killed in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated high school. The odds of something like that happening are also about 1 in a million. It's the same invisible force, the same 1 in a million roll of the dice, just pointing in the opposite direction. Bill Gates got 1 in a million luck. Kent Evans got 1 in a million risk. And that's the whole point, isn't it? Luck and risk are siblings. They are two sides of the exact same coin, reminding us that no matter how hard we work, our actions don't dictate 100% of our outcomes. You just can't believe in the power of luck without having an equal amount of respect for the power of risk. If you start acknowledging luck, it should make you a little humble. But what happens when successful people forget about luck and start to think it was all them? Well, they can fall into this really dangerous trap, this endless appetite for more and having no idea when to say, I have enough. This story from Kurt Vonnegut just says it all.
He was at a party with Joseph Heller, the author of Catch-22, and someone pointed out that a billionaire hedge fund manager there made more money in a single day than Heller's famous book had made in its entire history. And Heller just replied, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." Wow. I mean, that's a superpower right there.
Because when you don't have that superpower, you end up like these guys. Rajat Gupta was worth $100 million, but he wanted to be a billionaire so badly that he risked it all on insider trading and went to jail. Bernie Madoff already had a hugely successful, totally legal business, but it wasn't enough. He threw it all away for a Ponzi scheme. The lesson here is so simple but so brutal. They risked what they had and what they needed for something they didn't have and didn't need.
So okay, if constantly chasing more is a recipe for disaster, what's the move? The book argues it's not about finding some secret stock or taking some crazy risk. It's about understanding the single most powerful tool we all have access to, and that's time.
We all think of Warren Buffett as this investing genius, and he is, but that's only half the story. His real secret isn't just his skill, it's his ridiculous longevity. He started investing seriously when he was 10 years old. His skill is investing, but his secret weapon is time.
So today, Buffett's net worth is somewhere around $84.5 billion. It's just a staggering number. It's hard to even wrap your head around. But where did all that money actually come from?
Okay, get ready for this. This is the mind-blowing part. Of that $84.5 billion, $81.5 billion of it was earned after his 65th birthday. Over 96% of his wealth came after he was eligible for Social Security. That's not just good investing. That is the raw, brute force of compounding over an entire lifetime.
This chart just puts it all in perspective. If Buffett had been a normal person, if he started at 30, got the same amazing returns, and then retired at 60, his net worth wouldn't be $84.5 billion. It'd be under $12 million. That's a 99.9% reduction. His secret wasn't just what he did, it was how long he's been doing it. All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? Number 1, how you act is way more important than what you know. A patient janitor can absolutely beat a reckless genius. Number 2, acknowledge the invisible forces of luck and risk. Number 3, the hardest but most important financial skill is knowing when to stop moving the goalposts. And finally, number 4, the real secret sauce is an eye-popping returns. It's pretty good returns that you can sustain for the longest possible time.
And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. If all of this is true, if our own biases shape us, if luck and risk are always in the background, if our own greed is our biggest enemy, and if time is our greatest ally, then maybe the most important financial skill has nothing to do with finance at all. Maybe it's all about learning to understand yourself.